Okay. I'm sorry about that. Kolas cholas koshes. I'd have to say that the starting of this kollel had many barriers of entry, and the Eibishter clearly wanted it to happen. So glad to be here. So yeah, like I started saying, we'll try to be very cognizant of your time. We're dealing with a lot of busy Rabbonim and Askonim, and thank you very much for joining. I would just like to briefly mention two people that are near and dear to me, that I believe they are pulling strings Laman the Kollel, and we're very encouraging to get this started. In the planning of the Kollel, my dear mother passed away, Fege Bas Betal Lakayan. So I think we owe her a lot. Clearly, almost anyone I spoke to didn't feel we can pull off this Kollel. So there's definitely tremendous siyata d'shmaya involved. And also my dear Rosh Yeshiva, who's also the Rosh Yeshiva of one of our Roshei Kollel, Kasimov, and I'm sure many of those involved in the Kollel have gained tremendously from Reb Michal, Akiva Gershon, and Rafal Menachem Nochem, the Shamash Reb Aliyah, and Torah learning was his blood. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Raskin, and then I'll introduce Rabbi Kasimov to share with us some Divrei Berocha as we're traversing this tremendous challenge that we're all invoking on to do serious learning despite our other tremendous achrayas. I have to just say that I have tremendous networking in communities outside of Anash. And people always say that, you know, if you want to learn where real learning is, you have to go outside of Lubavitch. I have to say that this kollel, in many ways, is setting a trend that communities outside of Lubavitch, I believe, and I've already heard from many of them, can gain tremendously. And having people that are in positions of Rabbanos with serious kviyas itim to grow in Rabbanos, and from what I know, it's unparalleled, this trend that we're setting. So I think we're bringing the Eibishter and the Rebbe tremendous nachas with this project, and we're setting the stage for real serious learning amongst Askonim and growing in Rabbanos. Reb Chaim Hillel Raskin, who is the Rosh Kollel, we were honored to have him as our Rosh Kollel, joining us from Eretz HaKodesh. So I'll just mention briefly that as we started the Kollel, he had already finished getting his tests on most of the first 4 halakim of Shulchan Aruch, and he just got his last test on Choshen Mishpat while the Kollel was still forming. So I don't believe he was mekayim the words of the Rambam to sleep Shmoyna Shois. I'm not even sure if he got 7 hours. So we're honored to have someone in the world of Lubavitch that literally spent 15 years in Kollel, and he's joining as Rosh Kollel fresh from that community to guide us in Chassidish Rabbanos, and but he's still we're honored to have him, and Rabbi Raskin, please share with us some Divrei Berocha.
Rabbi Kasimov, for everyone who is a part. Again, I'll talk soon, but later on I'll talk a little more at length. But Bekitzer, we're coming out from the Chag HaShavuos, and there's a Sikh of the Rebbe, which the Rebbe points out, that brings up the Gemara, which the Gemara says that Hillel is Mechayiv Anim, and Rabbi Lezer is Mechayiv Ashir. That Hillel, although he had nothing, he still, the little protest that he made, he gave half of it to learn. And even when they didn't let him in, he went on the roof, and we all know the story of how he froze Mechule. And Rebbe Lezer, he is Mechayiv Ashir, that even though he had 1,000 islands and 1,000 ships and who knows what, with all that in mind, he put everything aside, and he used to travel with his pekel and his flour to go from place to place to learn Torah. So each one of them is Mechayiv, the poor people and the rich people. The Rebbe asks, 1 second, The Chayra, there's a very simple, there's Vagisa Bayam and Valayla, there's a mitzvah to learn by day and by night. If there's a mitzvah, Vagisa Bayam and Valayla, there's a mitzvah to learn by day and by night. So then, the Chayra, what is after, what's Hillel Mechayiv you more? What is Rebbe Lezer Mechayiv you more? If you have time to learn, you're Mechayiv to learn. You don't have time to learn, you're not Mechayiv to learn. Where's the extra Mechuyavus? Where's the extra obligation from Hillel and from Rebbe Lezer? Rebbe explains that in truth, there's two aspects. There's one aspect is what you're learning Torah in order to fulfill the mitzvah of learning Torah. You're learning Torah in order to fulfill them, to know what to do. The Ma'isa Sheyasim. That is the primary reasons why Yid learns Torah. It says when a Yid is learning Torah for these reasons, so then when he has time to learn, he learns. When he doesn't have time to learn, he doesn't learn. He learns according to the time which is given to you. He has his parnasa, he has a time which is set to learn. And that way he fulfills his mitzvah. But then that points out there's another aspect. There's a point of someone who his connection to learning Torah is because that is how he's connected with the Eibishter. His connection to the Yid's connection to the Eibishter, his intrinsic connection to the Eibishter is through Limud Torah, and through that he's connecting. And when someone, it is so important to him and it's so imperative to him that that's how he's connecting to the Eibishter, he's going to find the time. He's going to make that time. Even though the time doesn't exist, there's only 24 hours in the day, he's going to come up with that extra hour because this is so important for him, and he'll make this happen. And that is what we learned from Hillel and from Rebbe Lezer. That although they're in their situations, they made that extra effort. They went beyond themselves, overextended themselves beyond the Chiyuv Torah in order to fulfill fulfill this connection to the Eibishter in learning Torah. And to this, I turn to all of you, Shluchim, Bechanchim, that with this Kollel, we've seen that so many people I've spoken to over there. One of the things which I'm constantly following up and hearing with people that says, I don't know, I don't have any time in my day. All of a sudden, I found this extra hour a day. And all of a sudden, this extra hour and a half a day appeared. Where did it come from? They don't know. It just came, a bracha min shamayim, this extra hour. And that is the lesson from Hillel and from Lezer, that if we are dedicated and devoted to this Kollel, to this learning, and we realize how this is the Kiddush Lubavitch, this is bringing the Rebbe to every place, the Leshluchim, the Chachamim, and be able to answer the Shlichus and know what's happening. From this dedication and connection to the Eibishter with the Rebbe's Berachos, should all be very successful and have a much atzlacha in this new coming Zman, and with this dedication. Shekach.
Yasher Koyach, Rav Chaim Hillel. I'd like to give a brief psicha to the Sgan Rosh Kollel of Tuvia Kasimov, a dear friend of mine, who he can go on and on about Rav Tuvia Kasimov, but he would be very upset if I went on too long. But let's just say, on a practical level, he is kol kuloi Torah and halacha and Hera and Chassidishkeit and Yerushalayim b'tachlis, and the Chavrei HaKollel have shared with me that they're addicted to Rav Tuvia Kasimov. You know, his hadracha and Hera and halacha. He's literally answering close to 200 shilas a day. Probably close to half of those are from shluchim around the world. And he's really able to guide us and be madrich us and how to approach people with the highest level of standard and halacha, but at the same time, the highest level of menschlichkeit and edelkeit and sensitivity and dedication. So we're honored to have him as one of our Roshei Kollel, HaRav Kasimov.
So shalom aleichem to everybody. So Baruch Hashem, there's many familiar faces, there are many new faces, and there are many concealed faces that we don't even see, which is fine. I just wanted to discuss a few points about the tremendous atzlacha of the Kollel that already took place. I can tell already, I have kshadim with some of the shluchim already from beforehand, from before they joined the Kollel, and I can see how much the Kollel has affected their day-to-day life. On a practical level, the level of shilas that were being asked before they joined the Kollel was, you could say, on a very simple level. since they joined the Kollel, since they took part of their time, their makdish, their Zman, from the very little time that they had, their makdish at the limud Torah, you can see that there's a real change in their being, in the whole metzius. When they approach a shaila on their shlichus, a personal shaila in their own homes, you can see it's addressed in completely a different way. They looked up the shaila, they understand a little bit of the tzdadim, and not only that, it changes them so much that they're able to not just change their personal lives, but it affects their entire shlichus. And I wanted to share one in Nakuda. When I was in Kollel, the Rosh Kollel told us a story that the Rebbe once told somebody that if you don't learn Torah for 1 hour a day, you're not my shliach. So I'm not getting into that prat, but I'm getting more into the fact that there was a shliach that took this to heart, and he hung up a sign by his office, and every single day, this is what he reads, and this is what gives him the chayas and the chizik to continue going. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, it will be difficult. Yes, you will take on an inyan of learning, which is beyond you sometimes. On top of the fact that you have to fundraise, on top of the fact that you're making a program, on top of the fact that you have difficulties or possible challenges in the community that are currently existing. But nevertheless, when you know that this is a part of the Shlichus of the Rebbe, what do you see from this letter or from what the Rebbe said? That it's not two inyanim. It's not that I'm a shlich and I have to learn Torah. From the way that Rosh Kollel said over the story, was this is a chelik of the Shlichus. That part of your Shlichus, part of your responsibility is to learn. So when you realize that and you take it to heart, it's not pshat, it's a davar neisef. It's not pshat that it's something additional to your day-to-day life, but this is a chelik of your Shlichus. And not only that, it's going to affect and only add and add and add to your Shlichus. When you're going to teach your balabatim, it's a whole different world. You're going to teach them Torah, halacha, dvar Hashem. You're going to be able to raise them to a much higher level. So I just want to give a bracha to everybody to continue that tzlacha, and remember, it's not an overnight process. This is a process that takes time, investment. You have to break your head on the shach. You have to break your head on the taz. It is hard work. You will not get there overnight, but this is what the Kollel is here for. The shiurim, the chabudas, everyone's together, working together. If you're stuck on something, there's an entire community of shluchim focusing on the same thing that you're learning. So take the opportunity to remember that and to tap in to the tremendous tools that are available in the Kollel. Hatzlacha Rabbah.
Thank you very much, HaRav Kasimov. So I'd like to express gratitude before I introduce Rabbi Mendy Kotlarsky to his partnership and vision in partnering with Hilchos HaRav Institute and starting Kollel Rabbonei Chabad. Rabbi Mendy Kotlarsky and his father, Rabbi Moshe. I'll just quote Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky when he gave remarks for the first Sicha about 5 months ago. He said, Kollel Rabbonei Chabad is a continuation of the vision of Reb Zalman Shimon Dvorkin, who had a dream to start a Kollel Rabbonei Chabad. And Baruch Hashem now, it's been able to be actualized. And Reb Mendy and his father, Reb Moshe, along with the whole team at Merkos 302, together with many, many other people. I'd also like to make an honorable mention to Reb Mendel Chaitan, who really tries to see what we can do to give resources to these shluchim that are moiser nefesh yomim v'layla. Since I started the programs of Smichas Chaver Chabad and the Kollel, I have on my contacts, hundreds of shluchim. I get to get a much deeper window into what's going on, and I'm just blown away every day. And we're honored to be able to partner in offering resources for the shluchim to grow personally and to help themselves, their families, and their communities, and also the broader community of Lubavitch. So Reb Mendy, if you can please share with us some Divrei Chizuk and Berocha. We know that an Oisik b'tzarchei tzibur is patur min HaTorah. So there's a definitely patur mikriya shma and so on and so forth. So the honor and the shtel that we put, those that are Oisik b'tzarchei tzibur, literally, if there were 25 hours a day, you would add an extra hour. So please share with us some chizuk and yasher koach.
First of all, thank you, Rebbe Tzalel, for really taking this dream and seeing it through to a reality together with all of your different partners. And like you mentioned, Baruch Hashem, the great team over here as well. Everybody's investing in it. My father is, Baruch Hashem, busy with good things. He didn't realize, but he had a lunch meeting with one of our top alabatim to try to continue investing in these types of projects. So he's not able to be here, but he very much believes and appreciates the time, energy, and effort in making this a reality. So in the interest of being able to get you to the shiurim and what you signed up to do, I just want to say that for me, I don't have the chance to actually learn the Chaimer, but following the conversation on the different communities and WhatsApp groups has been incredible over the last few weeks, and watching so many of my friends and shluchim and people that I've gotten to know discuss, in detail all of the different ideas and watch the community come alive. I'm sure gives the Rebbe a lot of nachas. And I just want to highlight one area that Meretz Hashem, I would hope will come together both in the conversations and in some of the shiurim that come along after, is the area that we have a special interest, especially as shluchim and people that are engaging kehillas, which is not only the halacha, but also how to take the halacha over here and be able to inspire people that aren't necessarily usually following halacha on its greatest level. So while we're learning everything aliba the hilchas and at the highest level, we have to also remember that a lot of the people we engage, we need to be able to have the oisius and be able to share with them and be able to use this opportunity to be mechazik both within the Anash kehillas and the Chabad house kehillas to inspire people, to bring them along for the experience, to be able to get them to appreciate becoming a little bit more firmer and following halacha a little bit better. So I wouldn't call it the fifth Shulchan Aruch like we always talk about, because that's something that every Rav has. Over here, the Beis Medrash for Shluchim and Rabbonim of Anash Kehillas, we really are living in a time when the Choshech HaGolos and the things that became the accepted norms, both in the Yoni Kashrus, I was talking to Betzalel, even things like, what do you do in your house when you have a Goya and you leave her at home and she's in the kitchen? You have to go kasher everything. There are elements that are much more practical, especially when it comes now to the next session of, Tznius, Taras Mishpacha, and Ishus, and all of these inyanim that are so negeya. We have to have a special emphasis of how to uplift the standards across the board and be able to do it in a way that, only Shluchim and the Hasidic approach would be able to do it. So with that in mind, I want to say Kol HaKavod. It's amazing to see how this is all coming together, and we are committed to investing in making sure that in Meretz Hashem, the future will continue to be much brighter every single day. So thank you very much for enabling us to have a small part in this, and we look forward to continuing to follow the success of this mochen. And I have to say, so certain things that aren't yet coming out, but there is Pashat real impact and real outcomes from this group of people that are being studied and implemented and hopefully produced to be able to have and make a big difference across the kehillas for shluchim, ideas that are born, needs that are highlighted. And because we have this forum and we have this group over here together, I think that we're going to see in the long term a lot of real investment and change in this area. So Yesher Koyach, thank you for being a part of it. And most important is for everybody to feel open to share and to communicate and to develop these ideas so they can be for the benefit of Yidden all over the world.
Thank you, Rabbi Kotlarski. And as Rabbi Kotlarski alluded to, in Mirza Hashem in the coming months, we'll be announcing other additional very exciting projects, partnership with a lot of people that care very much about the community of Klal Yisrael, community of the Shluchim, and the community of Anash, and they should continue to bench us with Siyata D'Shmaya. So we're actually not so far off schedule, less than 10 minutes, so we're doing okay. The Kollel is honored to not just be a community for those that are aspiring Rabbonim and want to join this community of growth, but we're also zeicha to have many very choshev senior Rabbonim that are not just part of the WhatsApp groups, but are actually listening to the shiurim, learning every day the chaimer and chazering this material. And the feedback that I'm personally getting and that many are getting are that they just love it, and it's amazing, and it's being mechazik them, and we're honored that we could have shimush talmidei chachamim and senior rabbanim joining us and inspiring us, and kind of we're all helping each other. So one example is Rosh Yeshiva of Lubavitch Yeshiva of Chovevei Torah, and the Vaad of Vaad Rabbonei Lubavitch, HaRav Zushe winner, who also happens to have two son-in-laws in the Kollel, and we'd be honored to hear from Rabbi Winner as he sneaks out of the Bais Medrash to share with us a couple words of Divrei Chizuk. And Rabbi Winner was not happy when I asked him to talk about how he balances his Shlichus and being a Rosh Yeshiva and being a HaRav all together. My sense was that he felt that it's really all one thing. It's not about balancing, but we'll be honored to hear from Rabbi Winner.
Thank you, Rabbi, very much, Rabbi Bassman. About the balancing act, it'll have to be another time. But to give Divrei Berocha, when they gave this the new session in Bechlal, the opening of the Kollel Rabbonim, well, you're starting Hilchas Nida. One of the Yesodis in Hilchas Nida is Hargosha, and I believe it was spoken about already by the Rosh Kollel and the Sgan Rosh Kollel. And the Chakira that was brought up. What is Hargosha? Hargosha is also in other halachas, but in the Hilchas Nida, it's very fundamental. Is it a siba or a siman? Is it a part and parcel of Tumas Nida? Is it just the dam, or the Hargosha is just as important as the dam? But it's a siba. Without that, you don't have Tumas Nida. Or is it a siman? If you know Vaad and Nafkamina, if you know Vaad that this is min hamakar, so then, even if there's no Hargosha, it's just the Hargosha is a siman is coming from the mark. This idea is not only benegay here; it's benegay. You can connect it to clothes that you know. For example, in Hilchas Shchita, there's also a concept of Hargosha. In Hilchas Shchita, the sheichet has to have a sense of Hargosha when he's boidik as a sakin. The sakin of Shchita, to feel the smallest pegima, you have to have Hargosha. And a sheichet who's old or not well, and he has no hargosha, it's a problem in his capability of being a sheichet. So you have and other halachas also hargosha. How about Chasidus? Chasidus, we also have the word hargosha, we have that as well. The word hargosha in Chasidus, you have beginning from Torah when he explains the union of Chabad, the difference of Chochmah bin Das. In Torah Oyer, and the same thing goes down through Rabbi Sin and Sienu. And I recently learned a Maimer from the Rebbe, and several Maimer of the Rebbe. How is he magder it? Chochmah is hasaga, the idea. Havana is bina. Das is hargosha. What is hargosha? So in Hilchas Nida, it's a sensation. If the person feels it so deep, it's not an abstract idea. It becomes something realized. Sensation in the physical body. So you're going to learn how does it apply today. This is another discussion that you're going to hear shiurim about it. In Limud Torah and in Chabad, the word is hargosha, and this is the mile of this kollel. that the Roshei Kollel are teaching this halacha l'maisa ad kedei hargasha, that you feel a sensation, not only understanding it in a concept, not understanding it in an abstract way, but actually internalizing it. To really know if you're learning it, it becomes like a physical sensation. The brain also has some physical sensations when you talk to understand something thoroughly and well, and that is the really impress. I'm a couple of years older than the people who are here and the Roshei Kollel, but this is mamish aim doimelai. The level of the learning and the teaching of Rabbi Raskin, Rabbi Kasimov is really on a high level. Halavai, when we were in Kollel by Rabbi Zalman Shimon, I mean, there weren't shiurim given on a thorough level from the explaining the Rishonim through the Poskim and all of the shittas thoroughly, a shach and a taz, back and forth. It is really a gewaldige inyan. And we say, yeah, we go with the Kunter Sachen, we go with the Rabbas, we don't go with the Rabbas. Das is HaRav. The compliment to Rabbi Raskin, I see, is here, and Rabbi Kasimov. You guys are mamish taking this on a whole new level, and it comes to a big Shikoyach, especially Hakaras Atem, Rabbi Basman, who started this. Frankly, I thought you were dreaming in the summer when you called me about it, but this is, I got to give you a lot of credit. Look at the younger light over here, how many names are on this thing, 58 names are on this thing. This is Kumter Hakaras Atev, putting together a team like you put together of the Roshei Kollel, and also a big shakoyach for room 302 that's backing this and supporting this, Rabbi Moshe Kotlaski and Rabbi Mendy Kotlaski. You guys are great. And the biggest credit, of course, is the Avrechim, the younger light. I don't know, it's 8 to 12 hours. I'm not sure what the expectation is and how much they can actually do. But this is a serious commitment to a serious level of limud Torah. And there's going to be outcomes in this. You'll speak to Rabbonei around you, and you'll speak with a different lashon, a different gesprach, and it's going to affect your other learning as well. So you guys who are dedicated to this, the younger light, the Shluchim, and the Berocha is that we should bring Mashiach. There's a lush, a statement Sfarim, Haril Hashem Kol Haaretz is Asher Teves Halacha. Hey Lamed Chovevei, Haril Hashem Kol Haaretz is Halacha. And that's what the Geula is to bring down Limud Torah, nicht nur von Hasoga, nicht nur von Havana, und nicht nur, but to come down to Hargosha, and Hargosha, the Mafteach we call the Shis, to bring it down by Poel Mamish, and this is going to bring the Geula. We should be Zeiche, B'schus, from all the leaders of this undertaking, and should talk about Geula Shleim and take it from Yad Mamish.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Winner, for taking time from your busy schedule, and we look forward to hearing from you more. So this is actually I'd say this is really all about the Chavrei HaKollel, and really it was a nucleus of Shluchim that really inspired me to do this. I in my work with Smichas Chaver, and close to 50 communities, everyone's like, yeah, Smichas Chaver is nice, but we need more. And so it is really for Shluchim by Shluchim, very grassroots. And one of the earliest Shluchim that I was talking to about this program, one of the senior writers for Chabad.org from Minnesota, HaRav Shurpin, one of our Chavrei HaKollel. We ask for you to share a little bit about for the old members and the new members, and please share with us a few words of Divrei Berocha.
Okay, so first of all, Yashakayach, Divrei Basman, Raskin, Kasimov, Farskis, everybody else who's involved in running the Kollel. About the Kollel, so I was thinking, first of all, they would ask me to suggest about how it helps in the Shlichus, and I was also supposed to speak about tips on like Rabbi Winner said, tips on how you balance everything, which we'll get to maybe. So there's a Gemara in Dayan that says that the Alter Rebbe brings in Hilchas Talmud Torah, mentions it, not that part of the Gemara, but almost that part of the Gemara in Tanya also, that you're not supposed to learn Torah al manas shekruni rabbi. That you shouldn't learn Torah in order that you should be called a Rebbe. What's interesting about this Kollel is that this Kollel really is working the opposite way. Most of the people here are already on Shlichus or somewhere, and they're already being called whatever titles honorifics they're being called. So they're definitely not learning in order that they should be called whatever they're called. They're already called that. The problem now is that you have to first learn. You're being called that, so now you're already getting, whether you like it or not, we're already in this position that people are asking us shilas, whether you like it or not, and they expect an answer, and you can't send them. You can't tell somebody, oh, go call a Rav. For some people it may work. For other people, it's not going to happen. Or if you tell them go call a Rav, so then they're basically going to the other community, and that Rav is going to be their Rav, which is, I think, a tremendous thing that this Kollel is doing, that is giving the opportunity for all of us that are in similar situations, that, as we said, whether we like it or not, you already find yourself in that situation, which means that you have to, the Eibush that put you there, that means you have to do all that you can do to actually fit in the situation that you are, that you're already in, and this definitely helps. And you see, and it goes, you go Michael Chayil about suggestions about balancing time. So we're supposed to fit it all into a 5-minute thing. So when you ask somebody eitzes, you can either ask the policeman or the security expert on how to protect your house, or you could ask the victim. So I'm not going to speak as from the policeman, security expert. Sometimes you ask the other person from the other side. Maybe they have some eitzes and tips. So I'm also trying to balance everything together. But I would say, as I think Rabbi Winner sort of mentioned, we're learning over here. What you have to keep in mind is that since we're all already in this position, that people are already asking shilas, which is not usually how it works when you're learning Rabbanis. You're usually sitting down and learning, and then you get your shilas after you learned everything. But over here, it's working the other way around, which there's actually a tremendous milah to it when you're learning, that you could focus. You're learning, and you're going to get, while you're learning, you have a limit. You have a limited amount of time to learn with your chavrusa, at least. You have maybe other time, but that's time that you're going to find elsewhere. So you have to focus on what's going to be halacha l'maisa. So you're going to have different interesting shilas that are going to come up the whole time. You have to take a note of it. It might be an interesting shilah, but you realize that that's not going to be really negay of halacha l'maisa. So you're going to have to, you sort of have to put it on the side. Instead of like you're used to when you're in Yeshiva and Kollel, that you could get lost in a sugya, or in Yeshiva they sometimes have Rosh Yeshivas that like to kvetch on the first blot of Gemara for a half a year. So you realize you can't do that. So just put it on the side, and then you'll have time. Write it down somewhere or whatever you do, and then you get back to it. But you have to be very cognizant not to get bogged down on side. They're not side, nothing is side, but you have a limited time, so you have to stick to halach l'maisa. That's or what's more negea to understanding the halacha. What's negea to that you have to go through. That's one tip for now that I could say. As I said, you could look at from the Ein Kachin Kabbalah Nisayin, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Shekayach Rabbi Shurpin, Schneier Lifshitz took issue with the fact that I referred to him as HaRav Schneier Lifshitz. And I think part of the vision of the Kollel is to sometimes we do shimush by a Rav to receive from the Rav. Part of what we see from the Rav is the confidence to actually paskin. Unfortunately, there's people that paskin without the knowledge, and then there's those that have the knowledge but they don't paskin because they weren't encouraged enough. So we're here to mechazik each other, and I really appreciate Rabbi. Many of the Chavrei Kollel reach out with feedback and suggestions, and many of the suggestions that Rabbi Lifshitz has from day one have been implemented and have made the Kollel better. And there's no written manual on how to run a virtual Kollel, So we're kind of figuring this out together. In the first 4 months, the pilot of Tfilas Kalim and Agalas Kalim was helpful in setting us up, but we hopefully will only continue to grow and improve the product. So urge everyone to continue sharing feedback. And HaRav Lifshitz, if you can please share some Divrei Berocha with the Olam.
Yeshikayach, just to tell you a little bit, my personal journey, it was a very difficult decision to join the Kollel or not, because I understood and knew what type of massive undertaking this is. But Baruch Hashem, I decided to join right at the beginning or before the beginning. And it has really completely transformed my life. There's no words to describe what it's done to me. It's amazing. You know, it was supposed to only be 8 to 10 hours. Realistically, all of us that have been on this journey and been learning, we know that it's been, 15, 20 hours a week, l'chol hapachas, but it's been phenomenal. Really changed everything about my Seder Hayom, my perspective, etc. So it's been hectic and it's been difficult. I'm sure a lot of you know, as other people have been mentioning, and Rabbi Shurpin just mentioned, that it's nicht as a pashut to juggle all the things, and how do you have the time and this and that. The reality is that you have to make it a priority. There's no discussions, and it can't take away from any of your other ikr chiyuvim, mandachar shmei, chitas Rambam, just finished Saita, but also everyday learning chassidus. And of course, your responsibilities, whatever your responsibilities are, as a shliach, as a rav, as a malamed, as a businessman, whatever those responsibilities are, you can't take away, and this has to be beneisif. And not only beneisif, but you have to give of your idus, of your time. You have during the day, all different time, you have to give of your idus of your time. So on the one hand, it's very difficult, and you have to, in a certain sense, cut back on other things. But on the other hand, there's a tremendous, tremendous milah that everybody that's been around me for the past 5-6 months feels. Not only does it transform my life, mibifnim, but also mibachutz. We just learned part of the sugya that we learned was cham b'tzasi cham kulei. And this is very true. There's a big machlekes about it. But l'divrei hakol, there's a musig of cham b'tzasi cham kulei. If you're cham, if you're warmed up with limit atayda, but derech mamela, everybody else around you is going to also be cham. They're going to be warmed up. And it's going to have a massive impact on them. Say personally yourself, but your family, your kids, and your entire community. All of my mekaravim who are close to me, they know what's going on. They see that I'm spending hours and hours a day learning. They know that I have to sometimes tell them I can't come here. Why, Rabbi, I used to be able to do this. I can't do this anymore. I'm learning. I have to change around. I had to change around a few of my shiurim so that I can go to the regular shiurim. But the impact that it had is ein l'tayr. It's unbelievable. It's pashut, the musig of neidus lahar tefeach hamanas latfiach, or more importantly, as we're learning, cham mektsasi cham kulei. It has a massive, massive impact on everybody. They see by me, without me doing anything, without me darshaning, and without me speaking about it, they see a chayas, a passion about limud haTorah that is unmatched. So on the one hand, you see in Zman, you might have physically less time, but it could be that it's being made up by this, so to speak, makifdik excitement that when people see me and they talk to me and they see my passion to limud haTorah, and they also have a whole new opening, I openly discuss with them about the tests and about what I'm learning and how difficult it is, and this Seder Henyanim, learning a pasuk, a Gemara, a Torah, Mechaber, Biz, the Alter Rebbe, of course, and obviously even until Heintige Paskim, it opens up their eyes, people that are completely not from, maybe they don't even know how to read Hebrew, but it opens up their eyes to limud haTorah in a whole other way. As well, to give a couple of practical tidbits, although ein chavish matter is atzmai, so I don't really know 100% what to advise, because I'm still trying to juggle it. But the first thing I will say is that I have to say thank you to Rabbi Raskin for being a nudge and a nudnik and convincing everybody and pushing everybody to get a chavrusa. It is extremely important. It's extremely valuable. Additionally, there's massive resources that the Kollel gives. Rabbi Raskin, HaRav Kasimov, HaRav Kvin, other people use out these resources. Don't be embarrassed. Message them, ask them questions. The shiurim, for me, I can tell you personally, listen to the shiurim live. Doesn't mean that every time you're able to. There's going to be times where it's difficult and you have other things going on. But it's not the same if you listen to the shiur live or you listen to it as a recording. If you listen to the shiur live and as well you're involved in the WhatsApp chat, the WhatsApp, and you're messaging and you're asking questions, you're giving answers, and even though you might be a little worried, maybe my question is not so smart, and there's people on the Kollel that are way more advanced than me and way more intelligent and have much more experience, but ein habayis and lamed, and in today's hayem yem, a little bit of criticism is never a terrible thing. So be involved in the chat, listen to the shiurim live. It makes the Kollel, instead of it being static and just a thing on the internet, so to speak, aside from your learning, it makes it two-dimensional, three-dimensional, makes it live, it makes it vibrant. It's a whole different feeling when you're listening to the shiurim live and you're involved. It makes it into a Kollel, not just a downloadable resource that you have at your fingertips. In conclusion, there's an old American saying, if you have an important task to delegate, give it to the busiest person you know. And this really personifies Rebbe Tzalel Bassman. And I can say, I'll take the liberty to say on behalf of all the Chavri HaKollel that I don't know how you do it, but we sure do appreciate that you do it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Lifshitz. One of the unique aspects of the Kollel is that, yes, we are catering towards Shluchim. At the same time, we're also honored to have Balabatim that want a serious commitment to learning, who want to put in 10 hours a week of serious learning. And on a case-by-case basis, we do accept Balabatim to the Kollel. Believe it or not, my Chavrusa is not a Lubavitcher, and he's part of the Kollel, and we do not discriminate. So the Kollel is a place to really, the goal is serious limudat Torah, even if your goals are not rabbinic in nature, although obviously our main emphasis is to create Rabbonim, but that's not exclusive. HaRav Moshe Steiner, interestingly, to kind of follow on what has been mentioned previously about the Cham Miktsasei Cham Kuloi, I understand that his Chavrusa is with his father, who's not an official shliach, but from what I understand, the two of them together, they put together these summaries and charts, and they're taking the learning to a whole new level, and it's extremely inspiring to see. So if you can please share with us some Divrei Berocha from Toronto.
Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Thank you. I feel a little bit humbled to be speaking in front of so many Rabbonim. My Shver is on the call, and Rabbi Winner, Rabbi Kasimov, Rabbi Raskin, and everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to be very brief. How does the Kollel impact my Shlichus? So I think Shliach and Shlichus are very much connected. The quality of the Shlichus is 100% dependent on the quality of the Shliach. So how did the Kollel change my life as a Shliach? So I would say to summarize in 2 points. First of all, I definitely have not been learning this amount since I was in Yeshiva. So just the calmness of the learning in my life has increased dramatically, And it makes a big difference, when you're learning only because of shiurim, to learn with somebody else, or chitas Rambam. When you have a kviyas of learning that's for yourself, to know, to grow in your own knowledge and limud, makes a huge difference. So I'm very, very grateful for that. That's number one. And then number two is, even when I go back to my yeshiva days, let's say when I was learning halacha be'iyun, smicha, when I was learning basar v'chalav, I didn't have a kitchen. I ate in the yeshiva dining room. So this is the first time that I'm in the world and also in learning in a serious way, and that makes a big difference. And then I should say a third point, which is that just being able to, the networking, as my shver said, before, when you ask a shaila, or you ask the shaila, and maybe the din in the signon of a rebbitzin. But now being able to, I don't know, maybe I should have a teuda for rebbitzin, and maybe soon I'll be zeicha to teuda of Rav. But the idea that I have access to this caliber and this kamos and this echos of people that are kol kulam halacha, and we could add, when I'm getting guidance and how to deal with a question in halacha, all of a sudden it's in a whole different farnem, because we're looking at all of the sources, the Mechaber, Ramah, the Torah, the Bais Yosef inside. So it makes for a different quality of discussion, and for this I'm very grateful. So thank you to all the ma'arganim. I did not think that I would still be on the train a few months later. So Baruch Hashem and halavai weiter.
Okay, thank you very much, Rabbi Steiner. And now for the main course, back to the Chaim Hillel Raskin. We're a little behind schedule, but I guess let's jump into some inyanim of Hilchas Nida. Yashakayach.
Okay, Shalom again to everyone. So actually, meaning that as the oifen of the from 8 to evening, afternoon today of everyone here now is a little bit of a share, but just more of a general, again the same signal as a background for what we are all doing, and some guidance, Hashem, of the learning. So, second, let's share screen. Number one, a lot of times when respect to certain shluchim, it came to Hilchas Kelim, so they said, okay, fine, so how do I give this over? Every time large shluchim, what they learned, they gave over to their communities, etc. The same thing is also the pashtus when it comes to the halachas of Taras Mishpacha, Hilchas Nida. We have so many answers of the Rebbe that how much we have to have the importance that we give it over to our communities, we give it over to the people who are around us. On one hand, you are all learning a level which is a level for ourselves in a certain sense, but on the other hand, the obligation to give this over and to teach these halachas to those which are around us is immense. It's known that when the Belzer Rebbe, is also a video of this, when the Belzer Rebbe came to the Rebbe in Yeshivas and Tavshemem Aleph, I believe. So the things with the Rebbe was telling is that we have to teach students Taras HaMishpacha. And the Belzer Rebbe turned to the Rebbe and said, "What, our children?" And the Rebbe turned to him and says, "What do you mean? I thought you had much breiter places. I thought our children is not just your cries; it's all Am Yisrael." And so too, this idea is for all of us, that basically all of us have this same obligation to teach to everyone these halachas as much as we can. That is as much as we can. And we also have putting a few answers. There are many answers to the Rebbe, how the Rebbe speaks to Shluchim, that here the answer the Rebbe tries to Shlich. Lepelek tzas shemeshech kol zman elmen lichtavim banase baskanus zugase abanis tichia b'tayin taras mishpacha. But the Shlich HaRav, the Rebbe is asking, I want to hear from you. What are you doing with the Indian of Taras Mishpacha? And again, a following answer again. that they were saying to women, but again, this is also to all of us that nachas b'yoseh lasses kvias asher achas anashim kis bezatil midimam dinim atzichim achidism heter matev shem negam im anashim atzirin. So that was basically again and again pushing that as much as we can to teach these halachas to everyone who needs to. And this obligation is an obligation which is upon us. And the way we are able to teach it is when we know this, when we have these halachas, when we know these halachas, we're able to give them over we're able to give them over in a good way when we know them. And that is the idea which we are trying to accomplish here, that all of us should know these halachas in a proper way. I'd like to bring a small vart from the Gemara, the final of Maseches Nida. The Gemara end of Maseches Nida, all discussion of Hilchos Nida back and forth. How does the Gemara conclude? The Gemara concludes, Tana Develio, Kollel Hashem Allah, B'chol Muftach Leshluchim Ben Adam Haba, Shenemar, Halichas Adam Lei, Atika Halichas El Halachas. We all know this from davening. That's how the Gemara concludes Maseches Nida. Now the question which Tosfos asks, what is this doing by the end of Hilchos Maseches Nida? How is this connected to the conclusion of Hilchos Nida? How does it fall in here? So Tosfos tells us that they're looking for a good thing to end off with. We learned Hilchos Nida, so we're looking for a nice good thing to end off with. So what's a nice thing to end off with? The nice thing to end off with is to learn halachas. That's how Tosfos says. They found also in other places that we're Messiah with Divrei Shvach and Tanchum. So a good thing to end up with. There's a Marsha there on the Gemara here, which the Marsha tells us something totally different. The Marsha tells us that what's the reason why Maseches Nida is ending with this. He also connects us to this. Is also found in Maseches Megillah. I'm sure you all already learned Reb Zera. And he says like this: we learn in Pirkei Avos that the Kinin and Pischei Nida heinen gufei halachas. How much we have to be involved? No Pischei Nida. But that was before Reb Zera. So what does the Marsha say? The Marsha says before Reb Zera's Zera, which we've all learned about. So then there was taka. You had to medayik. Is it Ziva? Is it Nida? What is it 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? There was so much to be medayik. But once Reb Zera comes and everything is tamei, so then what's the reason for having such a strong deal? There's no reason to have such a strong. There's no reason to be mad so much. Everything is tamei and that's it. We don't have everything so much more to do. So he says this, and says the Marsha. The Marsha says that this what we're coming and telling you that even after the Chomer of Reb Zera, and still don't just come and say, well, everything is tamei and that's Reb Zera. No, go ahead and learn and be ma'ayin and midayik. What's aser, what's mutter, what's tar, what's tamei. Even after we have the Chomer of Reb Zera, don't just say, okay, fine, I'm being machmer and everything. No, go learn, understand. No, that's what it's about, and that's why the Maseches Nida ends with this halacha. Dafke Hilchos Nida to tell us that this is the obligation to be ma'ayin and midayik as much as we can to know the halacha till the end. Now, I'd like to just bring a few small points regarding the actual learning. I'm not going to be too ma'ich. What we are trying to accomplish here in the Kollel, I think most of you have mentioned this in the meetings or through the Shiurim. We're trying to accomplish the learning, but the learning should be in a way which you can actually take it to halacha l'maisa to Raskin. Now, obviously, again, we don't believe that every person overnight is turning into a Rav. That's again not. But the idea is that when you learn in these halachas and you learn them properly, you have a totally different idea. Now, we have today's day and age, we have multitude of Sifrei Kitzurim. You have so many, you have from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch to Kitzur Dinei Torah to this book to that book, so many different types of Kitzurim and halachas. But in order to honestly, truly know a halacha, to give up psak, to know what's going on, you have to know it from the source. When you know it from the source, you're able to go back, you're able to understand the shaila, to understand what the shailas which are connected to the shaila, and get to an answer. That's why we are placing in here in our Kollel such a big emphasis to know the Yesivas. A major emphasis, and it's kedai. Sometimes it could be I'm short with time and you need to catch something up. That's one thing. But as a rule, it's kedai to always to know from the Yesivas, to know from the Gemaras, to know from the Mishnah, to know what's going on over here. the Rosh, the Shuta Rosh, which is also brought in the Kesef Mishnah, I have it in the screen. The Shuta Rosh tells us about the Rambam. It's like interesting, he's writing about the Rambam, he writes against paskening from the Rambam. We all know the Hakdam of the Rambam. He says, once you have the Rambam, you don't need anything else. That's how we all just started the Rambam a month and a half ago, where we know the Rambam, you don't need anything else. That's how the Rambam starts. The Shuta Rosh, the Rosh tells us, no, not at all. That if you read just the Rambam, you don't have the time, you don't have the reasons, you don't have the reasons, and if you don't know the Gemara, you don't know it, and you can make a mistake. The Rosh writes, La yismech adam al tis yaseh besifre ladun lahayres im leishim tzarei bekmar. Don't paskin from the Rambam unless you know the source, unless you know what the Rambam sources are. In fact, we know the Rebbe made a big my Kollel Rebbe was that they should make the Merkos of the Rambam. But the Rosh is telling us, you want to pass him for the Rambam, you need to know what it's based on. The same thing is also we have a lacha. We have a lacha in the Shulchan Aruch. You have to know what's going, what's the base, what's the side, what's the situation. There's so many different things, and if we're not going to know fully the full background, we're going to be missing out. A lot of times a shaila will come up from one place and there's another place which is also connected to. And if you don't fully understand what's going on, you can make a serious mistake. Let's say I'll just throw in. We were all learning the last week about 7 days, 6 days, yes, 6 days. If you realize, we didn't even discuss the first 5 days. The first 5 days were maybe mentioned in the Bais Yosef a drop. The Shulchan Aruch, no one discussed the 5 days now. If you don't know that, you didn't know Kuf Tzadik Vav, you just opened up this Siman Kuf Pei Gimel, you're like 7 days is fine and that's it. 1 second. That's why you have to know Mitzad Echad, the whole background and everything, and then you're able to get a full complete picture. And then when you get a full complete picture, you're able to talk and know how to address it. And Islam here a lesson from the Rosh. Tipach ruchan shel oisam habayim ladin al pi sifrei v'chibur g'dayin ve'enim yedim k'alei b'mishnah v'alei b'gemura. If you don't know the backwards, you can make mistakes from chiv to pater to iser to mutter, and you won't understand something properly. That's why it's so important to know the Yesivas. Now, this idea is not only about the Rambam. That's what the Rosh was writing about the Rambam. The Rosh was very meichid. The Rambam is more kitzer. The Levush. We also learned the Levush now. We learned how the Shach, Tax Levush, whatever it is. But Levush was slightly after the Ramah and the Mechaber. He says very powerful words. He says about the Rambam and the Mechaber, and the Ramah and the Mechaber. They were Bucky and the whole Gemara and Poskim, and they knew everything. So they're writing Kitzurim. They're writing Kitzurim. That's what they're writing, because they're Bucky and everything. But for all of us, which we do not have this strong idea in all the backgrounds, so then it doesn't work. And he says, learning the Shulchan Aruch without the backgrounds is like learning without salt. You don't have the taste in it. You need to have the salt in order to actually have the background and to actually give out the proper taste and give out the proper love. So with this in mind, I'm just giving over the idea which we are trying to accomplish here is that for all of us, for all of you to learn with one hand, know the Shulchan Aruch, with the other hand, know the background, and on the second hand, to bring it to practical halacha l'maaseh. And as Rabbi Lifshitz mentioned previously also, that when it comes to this learning, Rabbi Lifshitz mentioned it, Rabbi Shurpin mentioned also, comes to this learning, we have to keep our eyes focused. It's very easy to get carried away, and it's very easy to get carried away even in a Chassidus. In other words, someone's going to come now through Sim Kuf Pei Gimel and say, okay, 1 second, Alter Rebbe, how can I pass Kuf Pei Gimel without learning the Madura Basra of the Alter Rebbe? Now, that's very taka, it's very true, and it's very important to learn the Madura Basra of the Alter Rebbe. But on the other hand, to learn the Madura Basra of the Alter Rebbe without going through the whole Hilchos Nida, without going through it properly, without going through the Yesivas, is not going to work. You have to go through everything, and then you're able to go through it. Hopefully, eventually we'll get to it. It's important to keep ourselves focused on what we need to learn. Now, one hand, we try to give a guidelines what to learn. Obviously, someone could add a little bit here, take off a little bit there. We're trying to give a general guideline of what this amount of time which dedicated, what could be accomplished, and we hope that everyone will be successful with this. And there's room to always to be more marchiv. That's why in the sources we always say you want to be more marchiv, give extra ideas what to be marchiv on, and adrabah. But again, remain focused. Focus on the Bais Yosef, which the Bais Yosef actually quotes the Gemaras, the Bais Yosef, the Tur, the Shach, the Taz, the Piskei Tshuvos. Those are the main things. And with Achronim, it's very important to focus on practical Achronim as well. They will go through the questions of the halacha l'maisa. In the shiurim, we definitely try to give a lot of halacha l'maisa, a lot of things in the Achronim. But don't spread out too much. If you're going to spread out too much, you could get lost. You could get lost in something, and the train is moving. Baruch Hashem, we saw in the Kedim, the success is that we are mispashit, we do extend ourselves, but then we constantly keep on moving forward. So on one hand, Taki could learn, but on the other hand, has to be a reserved amount, and then we could constantly move forward. And this is the key to success. So as we are now basically starting the new Zman of Hilchos Nida, the new Zman which everyone has the ability to dedicate and to devote their time, wish everyone much success in Atzlacha, to be medaik in these halachas, to dedicate and to devote themselves. And myself, I'm available, Rabbi Kasimov is available, Rabbi Tzalo, we're all available to help with all the different resources. I will relay that regarding the resources itself. There's the primary thing is the shir Rabbi Kasimov on Sunday night, the halacha l'maisa shir on Thursday night. Thursday afternoon. Those are the primary resources, and everything else is addition. The lectures are addition. The the papers are addition. Everything else are additions, but they're all tools which were to help you stay focused, and much hatzlacha to everyone.